Okay, guys, I think we're now live for another Wednesday night episode of Conversations with Cougars. And I have Caleb Tillman from Louisville with me tonight. I'm so glad to see him and looking forward to a nice talk with him this evening. Caleb, how's your world going?
Everything going good right now. Everything's a blessing. How about you?
Well, everything is good here, and I appreciate you making some time. I know you got a very busy time in your life, and we're going to get to that in a few minutes. And for
Mhm.
those of you who don't know Caleb or didn't get a chance to see him play, maybe you know some of his relatives, his father Dennis, his uncle, no cousin Keven Jackson. Keven, of course, has been on our show. Keven was a star in the early '90s at Northview, and then later went on and had a successful career in the pros. And your dad and I played against each other, and I have to give him props because Dennis was one of the fastest, toughest runners we ever faced. I was just glad, Caleb, I was on offense and didn't have to try to contain him because when he got his motor going, there was none finer in Dothan. So serious props to you, Dad. I hope you've seen film or heard some of the stories over the years. I'm sure you have.
I definitely have heard a lot of the stories from him. Definitely have heard a lot of the stories. And, growing up, being his son, I kind of, everybody really, I felt like trying to make me be a running back, but I was a lineman my whole life. But I wasn't, so people kind of looked at me different since I wasn't running the ball. Kevin was a skill player. My dad was a skill player, and I was a lineman. But I feel like I did the best I could do with it. Yes, sir.
Well, you certainly did. You had an outstanding high school career, and I know you went on to play at Louisville, and I'm looking forward to us jumping into that. But before we do, tell folks I know you're a recent graduate of Louisville. You've got some big news. You made an announcement coming up, which is awesome. So, share a little bit about your story right now and what's coming up for you in the future.
Well, I just graduated from Louisville with my bachelor's degree in exercise science.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm actually in the process of getting a personal training job right now at LA Fitness. And then also I coach D line at Central High School. Really, the alum now Muhammad Ali, so it's good tradition there. I just found that out the other day. I have a baby on the way. Me and my girlfriend have a baby on the way, and that's everything going right now. That's everything going.
I'm hearing all kind of blessings right there. So props and congrats to you and your girlfriend. And has Dennis picked out his grandfather name just yet?
Nah, I don't think he has, but he's definitely excited. He's definitely excited. He won't stop talking about it, but he gon' he's definitely gonna be a good grandfather, and I know he'll be definitely pushing him to play football. So
Well, I think you got a little bit of time before that
yeah,
has to
yeah,
happen. But that's just I don't, you and I don't know each other, but I'm seeing a smile on your face, which is telling me that those are all good things in your world right now. And particularly during this weird time of our lives in the pandemic, anytime a person could put a smile on their face, I count that as a win for the day. So much congrats to you and your girlfriend and the accomplishments. So that's awesome. Is
thank you.
Louisville, you say you're coaching at Central High School. For now, is Louisville going to be home for you guys?
Louisville is home. Yes, sir. We got an apartment here in Louisville, so Louisville's definitely home. I made it home after I graduated, and I love it. I love it. I really do love it. So.
That's excellent. That's excellent. We got a couple of folks who've rolled in here. Want to share a little love with you already tonight. Caleb Damon Glasgow is here. Cameron Smith says, "Go Caleb Tillman." And Coach Jerry Andrews is with. We got a whole bunch of other folks rolling in, and I'll let you know when you get some shout outs as we go. Well, Caleb, I got to ask you. Dad went to Dothan High, of course. Keven went to Northview, of course. And was there any doubt when you were growing up which high school that you would be attending? How did it come to be? Because I don't know what part of town you grew up in or any of the backstory.
Well, okay. My whole life, I went to Dothan High games. I definitely went to more Dothan High games than I did Northview. And so I got to middle school. I went to Carver Magnet, and I played football there with all my friends like Cameron, Stefan Davis, Kason Wall, a couple people from the Wiregrass, and then my 8th grade year, I was deciding between going to Dothan High and Northview. I would go, talk to Kelvis White, and that's when Coach Stewart had just came in. His first year was gonna be my 9th grade year, so he was coming in that spring. He was just getting hired, so I went to Dothan High and worked out. I went to Northview and I worked out, and I just decided I wanted to go to Northview. And yeah, my dad really hated it at first. It took him a long time to really jump on the Northview bandwagon, but it took him until my sophomore year to get on the bandwagon. But right after I graduated, he went right back. So,
Well, it's when they created Northview in the mid '70s, way before any of us were even thinking about playing, or you weren't even close to being born. There was only the one major high school that was public in the city, and that was Dothan High for many decades. So many parents whose children and athletes went to Northview in the late '70s and the '80s. I'm in the '80s, like your dad, and into the '90s. They're all graduates of Dothan High. But you're right. It was just like your dad did, just like my dad did. Wherever your child is going to be playing, you're going to be supporting that school, because otherwise there's going to be a lot of this going on in the house.
definitely. And definitely. And I actually stayed right down the street from Dothan High throughout my high school years until my senior year. I stayed literally down the street from Doug too. I was actually zoned to go to Dothan High, but my mother was in the school system. So she got, some strings pulled, and I went to Northview.
Well,
And
the statute of limitations is over, so we're good with
yeah,
that. We appreciate that you came to Northview, but I got to ask, and this will probably be not my last question or comment about your dad, but are there any pictures, photos of your dad wearing Northview gear?
oh, I got some. I definitely have some in my phone.
Well, if I can ever get him on this program later on, because occasionally I invite people from other schools, we're going to have to pull one of those pictures out and give him a hard time.
I definitely
But
see some.
so you went to Carver for middle school. Did you graduate 8th grade from Carver and then came to Northview in 9th grade?
Yes, sir.
Now, did most of your friends who you grew up with, did they go to Carver as well, or were they at other middle schools?
See, I had a couple sprinkled from in different middle schools, but I mean, in Dothan, everybody really know everybody. Went to the Boys and Girls Club or something like that together, but most of my close friends went to Carver, Gerard, somewhere in that range. And then my friend Kason, he went to Dothan High. We actually went to workouts together at Dothan High and at Northview, and he chose to stay at Dothan High, and I chose to come back.
Really, that's interesting. Did he have older siblings or other family members who went to Dothan?
He had, I'm pretty sure his mother went to Northview. He just wanted to go to Dothan High. So
Wow. Wow. Okay.
I don't want to be wrong.
What about your teammates and classmates from Carver? Did most of them, which school did they go to?
Northview.
Northview?
Northview.
Well, talk to us a little bit about, because you're one of the younger guys I've had so far to be able to come on our show. Your generation isn't big on Facebook. They're big on other social media. So I can't get their attention, but I appreciate you letting me reach out. And I see, we got some other folks. Let me give you some shout outs here. Let's see. I told you Coach Jerry Andrews, one of my coaches back in the day, Coach Rick Cleveland, one of my coaches, Dawn Truitt, Pamela Cummings Fitch, Tracy Donnell, Cam Cobb, Steve Stutz are all watching and send their hellos to you. When you came over, Caleb, when you came over to Northview, Did you already have in mind what positions you'd be playing? Did you know any of the coaches at this point? Certainly, Coach Stewart may have reached out to you. Talk to us a little bit about how that goes.
My ninth grade year, I say I knew I was gonna play line, but I knew I was gonna play defensive line. I went in with Coach Stewart. You know, my ninth grade year was, of course, Marquez and Jalen Harris and all them senior year.
Yeah,
So
some
they
good
were,
athletes right there.
yeah, they were signing big scholarships right in front of our eyes, and it really pushed us to want to do the same. So we really, I feel like our class, we came in just with like a chip on our shoulder to want to do something, you know, especially in football. I know we wanted to change the culture. So that's the only attitude we came in with my ninth grade year. And I'm speaking as a whole class and as me, you know.
It was your freshman year, 2012, the fall of 2012.
Yes, sir.
Who was the coach at Northview during your middle school years?
Wayne White, Mr. Wayne White, he was. I'm pretty sure he was.
Did you know Coach White or did you know Coach Stewart before that time period? I know he didn't coach in the city school system. He was somewhere outside of, but he was in the Wiregrass. I just can't remember where he was.
I know Coach Stewart coached O-line here before, and then he went up to Montgomery, Prattville area. And I knew Mr. Wayne White. I played ball against his son, Gabe, and I knew he was coaching at Northview. And he came over to Carver to get us to come to Northview to, you know, Gerard and Carver was his area. So he came to the middle schools and talked to us about coming and play freshman football and stuff like that. But
Well, how did your freshman year go? Did you guys have a decent season? Did you see some building of some good teammates and some talent that was on your ninth grade team?
yeah, yes, sir. We were good. I mean, we were. I feel like we were big for our age. We had a lot of different talent on the team, even basketball players like, you know, Rod and Tay, Tyler Liddell, Stephon Davis, uh, Tyler Marshall, Cameron Smith, Devin Hicks. Like we just all John Howard. We all just coming from two different middle schools and combining together, and I feel like we just we bonded and we stuck together throughout our whole time being at Northview. I feel like.
Well, your freshman year, the varsity went 5-5 that year. And the seasons before that had been really lean years, to say the least. And going into your that ninth grade spring, that's first spring training, did you get a taste of what it was like on the varsity level? Did you see any varsity practice or game time as a ninth grader? Or were you strictly on the ninth grade team during that year?
My ninth grade year, I got moved up to varsity at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Really didn't play. We was just on scout team, causing you know, just trying to make plays on scout team. I remember dressing out. I think their last game was Prattville, and I remember actually Marquez had a pick six. I remember clear as day watching it from the sideline, and that was my first time really being on the sideline at a like varsity atmosphere.
And that game was at home. It was it was a huge score. It was a 57-36 loss. That's 90 odd points. But being at home, that must have made an impression on you. That much scoring. There probably was a pretty good crowd that night. Did you have any chance that you might play? Or were you just there, just kind of soaking it in as a ninth grader? Maybe you had some big eyes at the time.
I feel like I had big eyes at the time. I was just enjoying the moment, to be honest. In my ninth grade year, I was just in the weight room trying to get as strong as possible, trying to beat the numbers on the board, like Spencer Pybus, of course, Matt Mims, and those type of people that I kind of like heard of before I got there, in a way. So,
well, what was your size your fall of your ninth grade year when you came into Northview?
I say I was like I probably came into Northview probably like 6'1", 6'2", probably like
Okay.
240, 235, if that. I was like long, lanky,
Uh-huh.
bigger guy. I wasn't really that chunky. I was more of like just long, had long arms, and didn't really was a D lineman, just playing
Sure.
football.
Now, did you play any other sports besides football? Because I know you're an athlete. I just didn't know if you'd played any organized by the time you got to ninth grade.
At Before I went to high school, I played baseball. That was my, I kind of liked it. I really didn't take it too serious. Actually, Coach Stewart really, I feel like I was playing baseball my spring coming into Northview, and Coach Stewart really told me to give it up. Just come focus on football, and you could do way more than you can do in baseball.
Well, I don't want to fast forward through any of your schooling at Northview, but when you graduated, how tall had you grown to, and what was your weight by that point?
When I left, I was probably like 6'2", 6'3", 265, 265.
Wow, you really did fill out during that time period. Well, let's keep it in your 10th. Let's go into your 10th and 11th grade years. What do you remember about first taking the field, your first varsity game? Did you have butterflies? Do you remember being just all jacked up to hit somebody, or what was that like? Because you're now wearing Northview colors. You're representing your school. It's a big crowd. This is big boy football. And I know you were looking forward to it, but take us to that time period, maybe your sophomore year, early in that season.
My sophomore year, I remember the first game was our jamboree game was against Carver Montgomery. They had, I feel like he was like the number one and number two inside linebacker in the country, Sean Dion Hamilton. I remember that. Actually had a tight end, a wide receiver committed to Southern Miss, but he ended up coming to Louisville, and I ended up meeting him when I first got here. But
Wow.
that was
Yeah,
my first
Sean
varsity game.
Hamilton, he ended up being a pretty decent player.
He was a great player and still is playing at the Redskins, I'm pretty sure. But he that was my first game. I played. I was in 10th grade playing. So that was my goal, was to play. I wanted to play and actually, get a lot of playing time. Because, as a sophomore, if you playing, you really you kind of good, So I played. I made a couple plays, but back then I really didn't even know what I was really doing. I was just tackling people who had the ball. At that point, I was so young. My first game.
Well, you're making plays, but are you also hearing it in your ear from the coaches that are you staying within the scheme, or are you just being an athlete and just making plays, or a little bit of both?
See, I was at DN that year, so I was behind, I think, our team captain, which is Jordan Carter. He was our team captain. So back then, actually, I was playing DN, and I felt like I was just making plays in the system, just containing what I needed to. To be honest with you, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just still playing football.
Sure, you were loving it and had a big smile on your face and just knocking heads. But I want you to take us to maybe one of your favorite memories during that time period. It could be a practice where you and somebody on the field really locked up, or it could be a great play you remember. Or maybe, and I've had many people tell us, Caleb, it was the play they didn't make that really was a learning experience for them that helped to propel them to become a better player.
My 10th grade year. Well, I say the game that I really played the most was probably the last game against Prattville. And we had somebody get sick in front of me. And actually, uh, first drive, there was a whole different defense. The second drive, I got boosted up to play. So I was like, I got basically thrown in the fire. So they had, Kalen Whitlow at quarterback, and they had Cameron Petway at running back. So when he was running the ball, I remember just being like, back then in high school, you hear Auburn commit, Florida State commit. It's like, everybody knows that they're good. So I remember actually running upfield, him catching the ball on a sweep, and me freezing up my 10th grade year and not making the play. That's probably the most memorable thing of my 10th grade year that I say.
He caught you flat-footed and he made a move, and then that was it.
Caught me flat-footed of like he like, oh, you know what I'm saying? I didn't think I would get back there, you know. So it kind of just shocked me in a way. And that's the play I remember from that game that I didn't make. I made plays, but you know what I'm saying, that I didn't make.
But did that show you, did that give you some fuel? But because you knew that you were a gifted athlete yourself, but you're now playing against some really top-notch competition. What did that show you? What did that teach you?
It taught me that like the offensive tackle that I was going against was committed to Army. So I remember making plays on him, and I remember actually him talking trash to me on the goal line. And I said, I'm just a sophomore. And I remember him looking at his partner like, oh, he's just a sophomore. And you know, I was just playing football at the moment, and I didn't realize what I was really doing. And then I remember after the game, a coach came up to me. I ain't gonna say the coach, but a coach came up to me and said, next year you're gonna have a year. Mm-hmm. And then that drove me into my next year.
I was going to say that just, if you're remembering that from 6 or so years ago, that must have fed your desire to just continue improving. But I bet it also, when you were able to make a play as a sophomore, did that give you some confidence knowing, hey, I not only belong here, but I can excel. I may not be where I need to be, but I'm on my way to where I need to be. Was it a confidence building sometimes?
Definitely. It definitely was, because even in practice, going against people like Victor Nieves, I remember he actually in practice one day fell on my back in a way and hurt my back. And this was like my 10th grade year. And he actually, like, going against him my sophomore year really like made me realize, okay, I am kind of good, because he was way bigger than me, way stronger than me. And I was just trying to prove that I could actually play against you in a way. That's what I used as a chip on my shoulder my 10th grade years, to show people that I could be with everybody, you know?
And when do you think, let's go past your sophomore year. We're in the winter time and you're working out and you're getting bigger, you're getting stronger. We're now into the spring of your sophomore year, going into your junior season. At what point during this process are you now gaining that confidence, and that confidence showing, you're allowing it to come out, you're becoming a leader on the team, guys are starting to rally around you on the defense, whether it's working out or huddles in practice, wherever it may be? Do you remember sometime, because most people can kind of pinpoint to an event or a series of events that said to them, it's now my time to step up and I'm going to be that leader, because I know you became that.
Well, I say in the first, it started in that weight room that we had, that weight room upstairs that summer. Really, I feel like set the tone for our junior year. It really, we got better, and I got stronger in a way that I didn't think I could. I feel like that's when I really matured into the body that I needed, you know, and I was just growing every day. And we was in the weight room running those hills every day, and just, it was just a different attitude that spring. You just,
well, your freshman year, the team went 5-5. Your sophomore year, they dipped down to 2-8. But then your junior year, y'all were 5-5 again. And frankly, compared to the seasons well before that, where there were seasons where there were no wins or 2 wins, it was building some momentum. There was a lot of points scored on that by the offense during that time period. And before we get further, we got some more folks who've dipped in here. Keven Jackson said, "What's up, cuz? He tried to get you to come to Dothan High, but he knew you wanted to be a Cougar."
Yeah, and Keven know.
That's awesome. Let's see who else is. Some folks have rolled in here, and they go by so quick. Stephon Davis.
That's my boy.
Was he part of your class or during the time period you were there?
played Little League to high school.
Excellent, excellent. Well, when did you start thinking in your high school, or maybe it was even before, because you saw as a ninth grader Marquez and some of the other guys signing these D1 scholarships. When did it become a part of your thought process? That's what I want to do.
That summer, going into my junior year, I went to a Jacksonville State camp, and I wasn't even gonna go. I was at home. The coach called me and told me to come to the camp. So I'm young. I had to go all the way across town to Northview, get my cleats, come all the way back to Rip Hughes. So I get to Rip Hughes, have the camp over with. So I do the camp. I get done with the camp. The coach comes up to me and just tell me I got an offer. And I didn't really, I didn't know what to do. Honestly, I just went and told Coach Stewart. And when I got that offer, it really just, I feel like my life didn't change, but it really it made me see I can play college football, because it just flipped a hat in like a day, I woke up with no offer.
A light bulb almost came on, and maybe that gave you some validation that there are schools out there that are looking and maybe want me to come play. And I'm the father with a child who played college sports. All parents want their children to better from what they did. So take us, if you will, about some of those conversations with your family that, hey, you got an offer today. And then take us through that time period, because Caleb, what's very easy for a young person, 10th grade, going into their 11th grade, and colleges are starting to come calling, it's easy to get the big head and forget really where you are and where you need to go. So kind of take us in that time frame, those discussions a little bit.
Well, I went to a cookout with my dad right after. And, my dad had been through it. Keven had been through it, and he had seen, all that happen. So that's somebody who he helped me through my whole recruiting process, going on trips, 8 hours driving, coming back, staying in hotels, stuff like that. He was somebody that helped me through that at first during the summer. That was probably the first person I talked to about everything. And then Coach Stewart was somebody that had seen a lot of, had signed a lot of players, had been through the process a lot. And he was a great, coach. So, I talked to him a lot about it. Could have talked to Keven a lot about it, but he was over there at Dothan High, so I couldn't really just kidding him. But he knows stuff though. But yeah,
I know he loves you, but his allegiance was in the wrong place at that time.
he was in the wrong place at the time. But my dad really helped me with a lot of keeping my head straight and don't mess up academically, don't stop lifting weights, don't just keep my head narrow.
Well, Caleb, I don't want to skip this, but I want you to share with us, who was your position coach at the time? Who was the strength and conditioning coach back then? Who were some of your immediate coaches? I know Coach Stewart was the head coach. Who were you dealing with in the immediate time?
I'm dealing with Coach Brown, Coach Ivan, Coach Reynolds. Those were my really D-line coaches. And Coach Dawkins, of course. He was my D coordinator, the one that, instilled the attitude in us that we needed every day. Coach Dawg, Coach Brown, Coach Reynolds, and Coach Ivan.
They kept you on the straight and narrow and made sure y'all were doing what you were supposed to be doing.
Those were the coaches who I was.
Keven said to remind you that he took you to an Alabama camp when you were a sophomore.
He did, actually. He did.
Let's see. Devin Michael Carter Hicks, the man Till. He gives you calls you the GOAT. Chris Knight is watching with us. So thank you, guys. Obviously, I'm talking with Caleb Tillman. Caleb is up in Louisville, having recently graduated, baby on the way. and just loving life right now. Now, let's take it into your senior year. You guys dipped down a little bit. You were 4-7, but by this point, I know that recruiting has ramped up for you. When did Louisville come onto the picture? What other schools were you considering at the time? Talk to us, because that's a stressful but fun time of your life. It's your senior year at Northview. You want to show out the best you can. So take us a little bit through those memories.
Well, my junior year, probably, it started with Mississippi State. That changed my life. Deshae Townsend, he called me one night my junior year and offered me Mississippi State. And then once Mississippi State came, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Louisville came, Georgia Tech, people just start coming. And then I committed to Mississippi State my junior year. I was committed there until I say that like mid senior year. So I was committed there for a long time.
That was publicly known, wasn't it? Because you came on my radar because I always looked out for Northview guys to see where they were committed to. And I do remember thinking, SEC, all right, that'll work. So take us, what happened?
Well, I went to Mississippi State and I loved it. It was, I grew up an Alabama fan, of course, because of Keven. And I never really went to any other colleges besides there. So when I went there, it really showed me that it's more out there than besides the state of Alabama. So I really kind of like fell in love with it. And, you know, I kind of grew on it. I started taking more visits to like North Carolina. I started going to Georgia Tech and just started visiting more like ACC schools. And then that's when I kind of like changed my mind.
Well, and those are bigger cities. Atlanta for Georgia Tech. Over at North Carolina, you got the Triangle, 3 cities right there. You know, Starkville's a really small college town. It's more like, I guess it's kind of like Auburn in size, maybe a little smaller. But take us to Louisville. When did you visit?
I went to Louisville on my official visit. I went on my official visit in January, and that's why I was decided that I really wanted to go, because I still kind of had North Carolina it became between those two.
Yeah, but Louisville is north of Nashville. That can be nasty, ice, rain. What kind of weather did you hit for your visit?
It was so cold. I've never been so cold. I've never been so cold than when I first came to Louisville. That was my first time really hitting like single digit degrees and feeling that type of wind chill. And I didn't believe I was coming up here, but when I went into the city and saw the city aspect of it, and it just really changed my eye on it.
And Louisville obviously is a big city, but I'm envisioning you wearing like a thin Northview pullover sweatshirt or a little jacket, and it's about to snow outside, and the guys who are hosting you are making fun of you because you got thin blood because you're so cold. Am I off base there, or am I hitting it?
You're hitting it right, because my host was actually from Alabama. And when I came to Louisville, he told me like, this ain't Alabama. You need to get some real winter gear. So they kind of gave me a little something, the host, but it was fine.
Well, clearly it struck a real positive chord with you because you signed with Louisville, and that's an awfully proud day for you and your family. And it probably didn't take long for the family to get some of that Louisville swag going. Definitely. And at what point, now let's go into that, your time at Louisville for a little bit. For those of you who don't know, take us, Louisville's not in the SEC. That's where we grew up, in the SEC country, but Louisville's got a strong football tradition. So tell folks, who's Louisville's rival? Talk to us a little bit about transitioning from a 6A Northview program up to D1 real football.
Okay. The day before signing day, I actually had labrum surgery. I had shoulder surgery. So when I came into my freshman year, I was rehabbing a shoulder injury. So when I got here, it was an older team. They had a lot of veterans. Todd Grantham had just got here. He brought people from Georgia, and then Bobby Petrino, he was here. That was who I got recruited by. He, offensive genius.
There's a character right there. We
Yeah,
can talk about him forever, but keep going.
he changed my life, so I gotta like him. You know what I'm saying? So him. So when I came to Louisville, I learned that their rival was UK. Their rival was University of Kentucky. We don't like blue. It was just, you know, it changed my life because it was more of like a basketball state when I came here. It's totally different. Basketball is the number one thing. I stepped on campus and luckily, my freshman year, Lamar won the Heisman. So Lamar won the Heisman. Donovan Mitchell was still on campus.
That's some superstars right there.
Yeah, it changed my life for the better. I seen it different. We went to the Citrus Bowl my freshman year. We just had overall success in every way. We was number 3 in the country at one point. It was just, I was in one of the top defenses in the country by one of the best defensive coordinators in the country.
Who was your DC that year?
Ty Grantham. He
Well,
at Florida now.
And Caleb, probably not a lot of people know that Donovan Mitchell and Lamar Jackson were on campus at the same time. And both of them are showing out in their respective sports. Now did you redshirt your freshman year because of your labrum?
I redshirted my freshman year. I barely even lifted weights my freshman summer, just coming in slow. I hadn't conditioned in 4 months and stuff like that. So it was more of like they were stacked on defense and, kind of let us young bucks just, grow and get in the weight room.
You got to tell us that I don't know if you were in rehab and doing what you needed to do for your shoulder during practices, or were you able to attend practices and see how?
Definitely.
Well, you got to watch the Magic Man in practice every day, and I bet that was an unbelievable treat at times. He's just one of the best athletes of our generation.
Yeah, he's so humble. So like, I really seen him go from like, our first game, nobody was thinking of us. You know what I'm saying? We played Charlotte. Nobody really knew who Lamar Jackson was. So he went from a regular, just college starter to the third game of the season up for the Heisman. So it really just changed in a month span till he was a whole different person. So
in a hurry too.
It was just, it was just success came fast.
Well, were you able to dress out and resume activities in the winter going into the spring later in your freshman year? Were you cleared to play?
When I got done redshirted, it was the next spring. So my spring of freshman year was like my first time really going full live. You know what I'm saying? Like ever in college, we could hit. We didn't have any games that week. We didn't have a game in a month, nothing like that. It was straight just.
Now, had you been lifting and getting yourself conditioned by the time you came up to spring training?
Yes, sir.
And what were you weighing by this point?
I was 280. I say I was 280. At that point, I had gotten in the weight room. We ran 40s. I ran a 4.8 that spring. That was the fastest time I ever clocked ever in my life. And
where did that place you with the D line?
Yeah, that was, I think, third. And that was the best. I feel like that was the best shape I've ever been in. I was light, and it was just, it was a good time.
Most of the people who are in our Facebook group here are former players. We've got cheerleaders, administrators, and coaches as well. But a great majority of the folks watching this played on the high school level. Only a small percentage played on the collegiate level. You're used to playing between a couple of thousand people, maybe up to 10,000 people at Rip Hughes, Prattville, Enterprise, wherever. What was your first game like running into that huddle? Playing defense for Louisville? Do you remember where you were?
Papa John's. It was a home game. It
Mhm.
was I think it was my sophomore year. We was Murray State or Kent State. Murray State or Kent State.
And it had to have been the biggest crowd you'd ever played in front of, I assume.
It definitely was. It was jitters. It was a blessing, to be honest with you, because every time, I'm not gonna lie, when I used to dress out, even go to the weight room, walk out to practice, just to know where I, come from, I knew it was like a blessing to be where I was at, because a lot of people I know I played football with didn't get a chance to get that chance to go to the next level. So I knew it was just a blessing.
Well, you never, from what I'm hearing from you and what I've come to know of you, you didn't take any of this for granted. And you kept up with your studies to the point where you graduated on time. You've now got a career path because a very small percentage of guys play on the next level. They get to play in the league. It's such a small percentage, and there's such a fine line between those guys who get drafted and the guys who try to go for free agent versus the rest of us out there. We played the game because we loved the game, and I know you've loved the game. And what I want to ask you, and we've got a couple of more minutes, Caleb, and I appreciate your time. And I always ask this toward the end of conversations. Playing sports is a luxury. It's not something that's given to us. It's something we enjoy doing from childhood until we can't play anymore. But there are so many lessons that we learn along the way, not just in the sport, but outside the sport, that relate to it, whether it's being a teammate, whether it's being someone who reaches their goals or doesn't reach their goals. So, my question to you is, and this is what I want you to share with people, what kind of life lessons have you learned along the way, whether it's your time at Carver, your time at Northview, or your time at Louisville? What are some things that have stuck with you?
Most of all, I know like my road just leaving home 2 weeks after high school and just being 8.5 hours away from home, missing out on a lot of stuff going on, just being young. I say the biggest thing I learned was probably to don't, like, I know it sounds generic, but just don't give up. Like, don't don't give up. Cause I can say this now, like it's been times where, when it get hard, you want to run and go home. You know what I'm saying? And I knew when I came to college and just going and living the life of a Division I athlete, I knew the struggle it was gonna be. And I knew that I didn't want to fold. I wanted to stand tall, finish what I started and graduate. And I feel like just don't give up, and don't, feel sorry for yourself, because especially I'm saying in the sports aspect, because, you know, you just,
What I'm hearing is you're going to have good days and you're going to have days that are just suck. And the days that are not good days, the next day's got to be a better day.
gotta be a better day.
It's always got to be a better day. And I know you sound like you're a guy who's got goals out there and you're always striving and reaching for them. We were talking before we came live that I know you've got a job with the high school, Central High School, coaching D line and working toward, I think you told me, was it a training
Personal
job locally?
personal training, yes, sir.
And those are the kind of things that you can just continue to build upon. And I know in this group, in this Northview group, we have older guys who do that same type of work. So any of you who are watching this, or maybe watching it live or watch it later on, if you've got some advice to share with Caleb, I know he didn't ask for it, but I'm asking on his behalf. Reach out to the man, send him a DM, and y'all strike up a conversation, because we're all Cougars here and we all want to see each other succeed. Now,
Definitely.
Caleb, I want to ask you just a couple things before we get out of here.
Mhm.
You hadn't been gone long from Northview. Who was your favorite teacher? What was your favorite class? Where was your favorite area of the school? Share a little insight from your times at the View?
My favorite teacher. If I would say my favorite teacher from Northview High School, probably, she probably don't even know this, but Miss, I say Miss Wiggum. Miss Wiggum, probably my English teacher, probably made a lot of, difference on me that she didn't realize she did. Probably my favorite part of the place was probably the break area. I got a lot of memories. And the commons area, definitely.
That the commons area has changed over the decades. What's the commons area during your time period?
What's the big thing, where the lockers are?
Is this outside the library?
Outside the library, that's what we call it.
Big open space, is that the commons area?
That's what we call it.
Back in my day, 1,000 years ago, that's where the lockers sat. They weren't on the walls. They were in the middle of that room, just aisles and aisles and aisles. So there was no lockers were on the sides, on the walls. They were all right there. It was a mess. But that's, I guess, the commons area. That's where you can see everybody. That's where you
see everybody break, just passing by, seeing people, stuff like that.
Now, right outside on your way to the cafeteria from the commons area, the small area that has upstairs and downstairs offices that's right outside the library. During your time period, what was that used for?
I think it was the principal's offices. Upstairs, I'm pretty sure the principal's offices. Yeah.
This is going to blow your mind. The upstairs used to be a student lounge back in the day.
Lounge.
A student lounge. How about that? That's how old I am. Now, here's one more. When you go into the cafeteria, the doors to the left that go outside toward the back of the school, there used to be a broad set of doors. That's where guys used to park their motorcycles and go smoke.
It's definitely changed.
You think? Well, Caleb, I have thoroughly enjoyed our talk, my friend. I appreciate you sharing your story and your life lessons, and I wish you nothing but the best. I know you got some exciting times coming up for you, so I want you to please keep us informed here on the page. If you find any old jerseys or memorabilia or pictures of you playing, I know you sent me several and I've shared them. Please share them out. Any teammates, cheerleaders, anybody who was playing during that time. I know you've invited a bunch of folks, but I'm going to give you the last word before we get out of here. I want you to talk to the folks, act as if they are current Dothan High Wolves watching this. What do you say to that high school group who are up and comers and maybe have their eyes and their sights set on playing after high school? What kind of advice you want to share with them?
I say, first, take care of your schoolwork, because I've seen a lot of people lives change due to not getting their schoolwork. But besides that, I say push every day to be what you want to be. And even when you do make it to the next level, get that grind from the 8-year-old boy to keep you motivated to do what you want to do. So always have motivation. Even if you get the goals that you achieve to have right now, later, continue to set goals to achieve. And that's what I would say.
Oh, Caleb, I couldn't have said it any better. What you're saying is don't ever rest on your laurels and your accomplishments. Just keep striving. My friend, thank you for your time today. You give your dad a big hello. Give your girlfriend a big squeeze and hello from me. I know we hadn't met her, but we appreciate her sharing you for an hour. So guys, another awesome conversation with a Cougar legend, Caleb Tillman. As always, as I conclude, guys, we're going to get through this pandemic. It's not going to be forever. Continue to be patient. Even if you don't like wearing that mask for yourself, do it for fellow mankind. Next week, let's see, who have we got next week? I know we got a good one, another good one. Every week they're good. Let's see who we got. We got Coach David Ryan next week. That's going to be awesome. I don't know if you knew Coach Ryan, but he was an awesome, motivating coach back in the day at Northview, and he'll be a good one to talk to.
Yes, sir. I'll be paying attention.
You guys take care. Have a good week.